Much to Heike.
Good. So let me introduce Kieran Donaghy. I'm a teacher, trainer, and award-winning writer. Currently teaches and trains at UAB Languages, Autonomous University of Barcelona. His website, Film English, has won a British Council Eilton's Award for Innovation in Teacher Resources. He's the author of Film in Action from Delta Publishing. Kieran is the founder of the Image Conference and co-founder of the Visual Arts Circle. You can find out more about Kieran and his work at his author website, and we'll be sharing the link in a second. So over to you, Kieran.
Okay, thank you very much, Oksana, for the introduction, and thank you very much to Heike for inviting the Visual Arts Circle to take part in the virtual roundtable, and also thank you to Rob for organising all of this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about using moving images, particularly short films, to get students to tell their own stories, their own narratives, both spoken and written. Just before I do that, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself and my background, how it relates to images and moving images. So as Oksana mentioned, I've got a resource site for teachers. It's a resource site with about 200 lesson plans designed around short films. The address is film-english.com. So you've got the whole lesson plans there. They're completely free. All you need in the class is a projector, a PC, and a screen, and you've got all of the instructions there. I also write books about moving images. The last methodology book I wrote was Film in Action in the Delta Teacher Development Series. And I also edited this book along with Daniel Cherry when this was the first publication of the Visual Arts Circle. And this is a collection of 18 chapters from presenters of the Image Conference, which is the yearly conference of the Visual Arts Circle, which held in a different city every year. And I'm sorry, you can download the image in English language teaching. If you go to the Visual Arts Circle website, you can download this publication for free, completely for free. So it's visualartcircle.com, and you'll find the book there. And as I say, it's completely free. So that's, as I mentioned, Visual Arts Circle. What the symposium today is all about, Visual Arts Circle, which is a community of practice for language teaching professionals who are interested in the use of the visual arts in language education. So it's teachers, teacher trainers, editors, video producers, artists, who are interested in the use of the visual arts, and so it's very much a community of practice. And if you'd like to join the Visual Arts Circle, just go to the website, go to the Join Us part, send your biodata and photo to Magdalena, who's our wonderful membership officer, and she'll add you to the group. And I mentioned the Image Conference. That's our yearly conference. It's held in a different city every year. So far, it's been held in Barcelona, in Brazil, where I got to know Valeria for the first time, then in Cordoba in Spain, then in Munich in Germany, Valletta in Malta, where I got to know Rob, and Magdalena, the two Magdalenas, in fact. And then it was held in Lisbon last October, and it's going to be held, the next edition is in Athens, and that's going to be held on the 6th and 7th of October in New York College in Athens, right in the heart of Athens, and you can see the building where it will be held there, very close to the Acropolis there. And our conference organizer is Silvia Karastati, who's the events coordinator of the Visual Arts Circle. So, and funnily enough, exactly today, the call for papers for the 7th edition of the Image Conference was published today. So if you'd like to put in an abstract, just go to the website, which is the imageconference.org. Okay, and registration is the call for papers is open until the 8th of October. The 8th of October. Okay. So this is the session. What we're going to do today, very quickly, going to look at why narrative is important in language education. I mean, education in general, language education in particular. Why moving images are important in language education. Very, very briefly, we're going to look at this. We're going to look at the advantages of using short films over other types of moving images. Why I think short films are better than feature-length films or clips from films or adverts. There's several reasons why I think they're the best form of moving image to use in the language classroom. And then the main part of the session, we'll be looking at 5 or 6 practical ideas, generic ideas, which can be used with virtually any short film, which save you as teachers lots and lots of time because you're very, very busy. So these are generic activities which have been tried and tested by myself in the language classroom and by thousands of teachers who've used these activities, which are on film English. So tried and tested activities. And then we're going to look where to find short films. It's very difficult to find short films. Very good short films for the language classroom. It's very easy to find bad films. It's not so easy to find good films. After years of experience, I know where you can find good short films. I'll give you some links to where you can find good films. And then we're going to look at one particular website which I think is excellent, an interactive video quizzes where you're exploiting short films as narratives, and getting students to do these interactive quizzes outside the classroom, and students are improving not just their listening, but also their grammar and their vocabulary as well. Okay, so what we're going to do, just very, very quickly, we're going to look at the importance of narrative and moving image in language education. And what I'm going to actually do with this, I'm going to type in a link here to a film, and I'd just like you to watch this film. And this film illustrates the importance of narrative in, I would say, in society, but also in education. I'm just give me 1 second. I'm just going to copy the link. So if you could just click on that link and watch the film. When you've finished watching the film, just type in "done" and any reactions to the film. What you thought of the film. It there. I mean, the message of the film, the last caption there, never underestimate the power of a great story. And I think that very much we're storytelling creatures. We love stories. That traditions have been passed down through stories, values have been passed down through stories, and very much that we're hardwired for stories. And I think we can exploit this in the language classroom, in education. I think there are a number of reasons why narratives are so important in education. This one is that they're useful, that they've been enjoyed across cultures, throughout time. I think that one of the reasons why they're invaluable in the language classroom. They're very motivating. That engage different types of motivation. I think they also narratives grab the attention. I'm sure when you watch that film there, it grabbed your attention. There is a danger here, I would say, in the fact if we're using these short visual texts just to grab attention, this isn't enough. We've always got to have clear pedagogical and linguistic goals, but they are very good for grabbing attention. They come across as more authentic, I would say, than something written or filmed specifically for the language classroom in a course book, for example. They can resonate more with students' experiences. And one last reason, again, and this time again, I'm going to ask you to watch a short film. This is perhaps the sixth reason why I think narratives are excellent in language education. If I could ask you to watch this, I'm going to just copy in a link to a short film. I'd like you to watch the short film, but it's very important that you stop at 2 minutes, please. If I could ask you, if you stop at 2 minutes, it's very, very important that you don't go beyond 2 minutes. Okay? So if you could just stop at exactly 2 minutes, please. Okay? So if you just go there. And again, when you finish, type in done and any reactions to the film. Make you feel? Curious? Uh-huh. Young again? Uh-huh. The question obviously makes much more sense now. How did the film make you feel? Heike put, I'm going to cry now, which is a very common response. Very often when I do this in class, students cry in class. When I show it at conferences, students cry as well. It's a very typical response. Tired from all the chores. Okay, Rob, different response. Do you empathize with either of the characters? Okay, now the song, that's an interesting thing. The song is interesting, that Alfie has put. So Rob, you empathize with the boy, Maya. Touched by the relationship, yeah, the way the boy communicates his needs, yeah. You have to do the same at home, so you perhaps empathize because you've been in a similar situation, yeah. So kids know what love is. Very often, people say that they empathize both with the mother and with the child. Very often, parents, very often mothers empathize with the mother because they've been in that situation. Sometimes adults have been in a similar situation when they're children. If you use it with younger learners, they've been in a similar situation here. What I think this film is a wonderful example of the power of narratives, and particularly moving images, to get us to empathize, to develop empathy. I'm just going to go to the next slide here. We've got a quote from the Stephen Apcon, an excellent book, The Age of the Image, which says, when people watch a movie they're truly living the things taking place on the screen through their mirror neurons. Storytelling is not just a nice intellectual concept, but a hardwired physiological truth. Would you agree with that? With that power of moving images to foster empathy? Yeah, it would certainly seem to be true that narratives, lots of studies, that narratives are an excellent way of fostering empathy. Lots of studies, particularly from the United States, show that people who read novels are much more empathetic than people who don't read novels. People who read literary fiction are much more empathetic than people that read other genres of fiction. Also, that people that watch certain types of moving images, and I would say it depends on what type of moving images you're watching. If you're watching perhaps Fast and Furious 7, that's not really going to develop your empathy very much. But if you're watching something like The Piano or Schindler's List, that's going to develop your empathy much more. So I think narratives, particularly moving images, are an excellent way of developing empathy. Roger Ebert, who North Americans will know very well, probably the most famous North American film critic of the 20th century, he was very interested in how movies could be used to develop empathy. And he had this to say about movies and empathy. Just if you just read that, if you would agree with that. So the way it says it helps you understand people who are different from you. I think this is one of the ways that moving images can help us to empathise with other people. Why short films are better than other moving images like feature-length films or film clips or adverts. I think one of these are the 6 reasons for me. We can view them several times. Students interact with the material on a more meaningful level. We can have a different activity each time we show the film. They have a greater dramatic impact. I think both of the short films that we've watched so far, there's been that greater dramatic impact. The fundamental thing that we've got a narrative in a very short space of time, in 2-3 minutes. We've got filmmakers telling excellent stories in 2 or 3 minutes. Very often these short films are more innovative and creative than feature-length films, and I think they're fantastic prompts for oral and written communication. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at some practical ideas inspired by short films and videos, and these are generic activities which can be used with virtually any short film or any short video. Now, one thing here, sorry, just 1 second. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can see that. It's just sort of films of text. We can use many of the techniques we use to exploit print text with moving image text. I think a fundamental thing is to view moving images as texts, treat them with the same respect that we would with a printed text, the same respect that we would with a short story, with a novel, with a graded reader, with a news item. Using a lot of the techniques that we use to exploit literature, which can be used in the language classroom. A very simple technique is just to give the title of the film and ask students to predict the narrative from the title of the film. So, for example, The Adventures of the Cardboard Box. I think that's a very suggestive title, and students could come up with their own narrative which has that title. The Fantastic Flying Books of Mr. Morris Lesmore. I think that's an excellent title for a film. For a film, students have to write their own narrative based on that title. Okay, not all titles are as so good, but it has to be, as I say, a sort of quite suggestive title. The Man Who Planted a Tree. I think that's an excellent title. So just on with the title of the short film, students in class, at home, write their own narratives, tell their narratives, then watch the film and compare their narratives with the story the film tells. We're going to look at the first film that we're going to look at is Paperman. Sorry, the third one here. We have a screenshot from the beginning of a film. Now, what we would do here is a very similar approach to Valera's approach of analyzing the image we have here. So we'd ask the question, where are the people? Where would you say the people are? If you could type in where you think the people are. Okay, university, perhaps a train station. It looks like it's a train station, yeah. And you would ask why. The next question you say, so where? They answer where and say why. And you might say here, because of see in the background there seems to be skyscrapers. They seem to be on a platform. There's some sort of lights there, some office centre. And then you say, when is it? When is the photo taken? And if you could write in again, when is the photo taken? What era? What time of day? What era? In the 70s. Why do you, and why? Why do you say that? Ah, no mobiles. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. And the time of day? The dress code, the way that they're dressed, yes. So we've got, okay, so the early morning because of the light. So we'd say, so you'd ask the question, who are they? When is it? Okay. Do they know each other? What's the relationship between the people? Do they know each other? They don't know each other. No. How do we know they don't know each other? The body language. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Okay, so they've seen each other, but they haven't spoken. Okay. There's the distance between them. Okay. Yeah. We could also say, how are they feeling? What sort of mood are they in? How would you describe the mood of the man? Okay. Indifference? Or they've been married for 10 years? It's possible. In thoughts? Are they going to get to know each other? Do you imagine they're going to get to know each other? Okay. We imagine they're going to get to know each other. What I would say here, what we've done here, we've sort of analysed the images, we've interpreted the image here. This is the start of the story. What we would do here is to say, this is the start of the story. They're going to get to know each other. You've got to tell the start of the story. So the students in pairs, in groups, or at home individually, they have to write a narrative which explains the start of this story, how they get to know each other. Then they watch the start of the film and they compare their narratives with what they see in the film, and then they have to tell the rest of the story. So this is a generic activity which can be used with virtually any short film which has two characters at the beginning. The film is called, because I haven't got time to show this to you, the film is called, as I showed you, Paperman. You can find that on YouTube. If you just put Paperman, you can watch that there. The film I showed you earlier, the students can write an alternative ending as well to the one they see in the film. The film I showed earlier was Mixtape. And now, what we had here, if you can just imagine, this is the screenshot at the end of the film. So we would do the same again. We would ask the same questions. Where are the people? Any ideas here? Where are they? They're in their home. Where would that home be? Which continent? Which country might that be? What city? And how do we know? Connected apartment in England? Yes. Okay. Yeah. The thin walls there? Okay. When is it? When is it taken? What time of day? What era? Any idea what time of day? What in the 80s? Why do you say the 80s, Rob? The Bowie on the wall, so we've got those cultural references there. Okay. We tell the students that the film is called Mixtape, and they have to write a narrative. You tell them this is the end of the film. They have to write a narrative which leads up to this point. Okay. As you've already watched this film, as I made the mistake at the beginning, we don't need to show you the film here at all. Okay. So you've got the idea here that you have a screenshot at the end of a film, and the students, you analyze that image, and the students have to write a narrative, explain the narrative, which leads up to that. Okay, the final activity that we're going to do is, which we're, in this case here, it would be very good with this film mixtape for the students to write a sequel, to this. So what happens next? Okay, this works very well here. The last activity that we're going to look at is a film called The Reader. Now, in this one, what we would do here, the first activity we had a screenshot at the beginning of a film, and the students had to analyze, interpret that image, and then predict the story from that screenshot at the beginning with the two characters. In the second activity, we've had the screenshot at the end of the film. The students have had to interpret, analyze the image, write a narrative which leads up to that ending. This time, we have a series of 6 different screen captures which in chronological order tell the story of the film. Okay, so if we look at them in more detail, so we would have this here, we would scaffold the activity, we would say, where is this taking place? And the students would come, okay, it's a bookstop, a bookshop, a bookstore. We would supply them with illicit or explain the vocabulary of bookshops. Here we could have, you would see, an adult literacy class here. Okay, again, we would supply some students with the vocabulary, illicit or explaining the vocabulary. Here, we would again, that it's in a library. Again, we would go through the vocabulary here, illicit, explaining vocabulary here. Here, we have the man here with the gold star here. We have him reading the book here. And then we have a man and a younger man here. The students have to tell their own story which incorporates those 6 images there. Now, this is the last thing that I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you to watch this film now. I'm just going to give you the clip here, and I'd like you to stop at 1 minute 49, please. If we could just do that, to watch this to 1 minute 49. So we haven't got time to create the narratives, but you can imagine your students doing this. Just watch this and pause this at 1 minute 49, and if you can tell me if you think it's a good piece of storytelling in 1 minute 49 seconds. Okay, so just to finish, just to do that, please. Okay, so you've watched the story, you've said sentimental, choking, nice story, motivating, tears flowing down my cheeks, hopeful. I think it's a beautiful piece of storytelling in 1 minute 49 seconds. So it's just this thing of taking screen captures of different parts of the film, scaffolding the activity, going through the vocabulary, getting the students to tell their stories with those elements of the film. They tell their stories, they watch the film, compare their films like that. Okay, so it's a very simple activity there. So we've looked basically there 4 generic activities which can be used with virtually any short film there. If I were to tell you that short film was an advertisement for whiskey, how would that make you feel? Could you put in how you feel about that? So manipulated, this is true, and this is the thing, that we're always being manipulated by moving images. Increasingly, what's happening is that advertisers are using short films to sell their products, to sell their services. You have to be careful there. If you're going to use that, with younger learners, you may want to pause just there on 1 minute 49 and not tell them that it is an advert there. Okay, so that's all. I'm sorry that I've gone over time there. You've got my information there. You've got my web mail address there. You've got my author site, to Film English, where you Film English. You would to go there because you've got complete lesson plans designed around all of the films that I've talked about today, where you could where it's staged much more clearly, and then you've got the visual art circle there. So thanks very much.